Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Denzel Rodriguez, your personal finance geek of the 21st century. And in today's video, I have a lovely case study for you. We're going to be looking at an individual and their personal finances, how we're going to structure getting out of debt using debt elimination strategies, specifically velocity banking and debt snowball. We're going to be looking at retirement, how to invest, where to invest, what products, what vehicles we could potentially use. So these are ideas that I am actually working with the client currently in to figure out what's the best move for them according to their goals, their desires, their wants, their needs, and what will be most efficient for them. So with that being said, let's dive right into the material today. 4 major numbers on the left-hand side. We have an individual in the career of dentistry, so they're a dentist. They generate $19,500 a month. Expenses are $16,512.08. Total debt is $447,869 with a cash flow of around $2,987.92. So dealing with a 50-year-old female that has been a dentist for many years, so that's the career that they've built in. They enjoy the work that they do. The current position, financial position that they're in right now, they got about 80 grand or more of cash on hand in a high yield savings account. We're using SoFi, where they offer 3.8% on that money. We have a total of $950,000 of death benefit across multiple different policies. We have about $20,000 or more in stocks. And then I just put roughly earning about maybe 6 to 8%. We're in the state of Florida. We do not have a line of credit yet at the moment. So in terms of velocity banking, we're not incorporating velocity banking yet because we don't have a debt tool yet. We're looking, we're searching. So this is going to use an example of a bank in Florida called Space Coast Credit Union, where they're offering right now a 4.24% intro rate for 12 months on their interest only, actually on their principal and interest only payment option on their second position HELOCs. They have 2 different options. One is a 10-year interest only, and I believe the other one is a 7-year draw period, principal and interest payments, and it is 70% LTV. After the intro rate, it goes to a prime minus 0.5%. So it could be as low as 7% once the intro rate is complete. So with the current debts that they have, everything is higher than 4.24%. So this is a very simple, easy velocity banking strategy where we can just incorporate a tool that's at a cheaper cost, no money to get in, and you can immediately consolidate debt, increase cash flow immediately, and go faster than the traditional ways of getting out of debt by just making extra payments. So we're going to use Space Coast Credit Union in this example here. We may end up with a different bank. So again, just an example, not real at the moment. Here are some goals that this person has. First and foremost, they want to be debt-free. That is a personal goal of theirs. They want to live debt-free. They want to operate debt-free. They don't want to have to use debt. They want to be in a position where they get to use it and understand how to use it and master, which is where I come in and help them teach them how to become masters over debt and leverage debt to their advantage to create wealth, create cash flow, and have additional capital that they can deploy whenever they want. They want to invest in real estate. They have 1 property as of right now. That's their primary residence. They would like to have a laundromat as a business, right? They'd like to invest in that and generate cash flow for them. And a dental practice. They would like to continue the work that they do, and instead of being an employee, they can transition to business operations side of things and still do some work, but not be in a position where they have to. So again, we're currently 50 years old, married, kids, whole 9, and they have a projection of anywhere between 65 to 67-year-old that they would At that point, they would like to be in a position where they're completely debt-free, maybe owning a dental practice or a laundromat, maybe have a property or two, and have enough income coming in where they do not have to work, be in a position where they want to continue to work, but not have to put in 40, 50 plus hours, whatever they're doing right now. You want to be able to cut that down and go to a more customized schedule. So that's really unique. Not a whole lot of people want that. I would say a lot of people I speak to want to simply be done with their job or career and transition into something else because they either don't like it or that's not what their purpose is. So it's really helpful when you're in a position where you're in the career, you're in the thing that you love to do, that you want to do. Then it's just a matter of figuring out how do you continue to do that in retirement in those senior years when your body just isn't able to perform like it once could. And just keeping that in mind, having that awareness, like, I'm not going to be able to run the same way I can run today, jump today, all these different things. So you want to keep that in mind. So with that being said, in the middle of the whiteboard here is showing what velocity banking could potentially look like in the first year of incorporating the strategy with that intro rate and the first couple of moves that I would make if I was in their shoes. And then on the right-hand side is incorporating an investing, savings, and retirement strategy to build vehicles to supplement that income. We want to try and replace as much of our active income as we can, but more importantly, what we really want to solve for is making sure that our lifestyle expenses are fully covered by guaranteed and passive income that we don't have to actively work for. And then whatever active income you do produce, that's gravy, that's abundance living. Okay? So of this 447 of debt, majority of that is in a mortgage, and we have 2 car loans. One for $11,826, another one for $13,217, 5.99, 5.9 is the interest rate, 578, $400 are the monthly payments. If I was in this person's shoes and I acquired a home equity line of credit for around $100,000, $125,000 or more, I'd say minimum between $100 and $125, I would feel comfortable making my first chunk payment, which is what we're doing is a withdrawal that you would then allocate those dollars to debt elimination. You still have the same amount of debt. Just to be clear, we didn't borrow more debt to pay off existing debt. That's not what we did. We gained access to equity in an asset that we had, and we're going to shift pre-existing debt into another location and reduce that interest cost. So a lot of people think that or I should say like the critics of velocity banking are saying that you're going into more debt to pay off debt. That's inaccurate. You can make the argument that you now have more debt or I should say you have more debt access on your balance sheet. You can make that argument where it's like, yeah, if I had 3 or 4 credit cards here, I got 2 car loans, I have a mortgage. And then if I add a HELOC, that doesn't mean I'm in more debt now. That just means I have more access to debt. That doesn't mean I'm in more debt. Because if you gain access to a home equity line of credit or a new credit card or a personal line of credit, you're only in debt when you what? When you use it. So if this person got a home equity line of credit for $125K and never used it, did they go into more debt? No, absolutely not. And now this second part to that is, well, if I got a $125,000 home equity line of credit and I used that equity debt to pay off pre-existing debt, did I go higher in debt or did I go lower in debt? You stayed the same. You just simply moved it from one place to another. On my credit report, it'll say that's done and that's done. That got paid off. But then a new credit report will show there's debt over here of the same amount. The only thing that's different is the amount of interest tied to those debts. And that's what velocity banking is primarily trying to solve for, trying to help you in your finances, which is how do we reduce the average daily interest that you're paying on your debts? You may not view it that way because you're used to just making payments, right? You make payments and then you see the interest. But what's actually happening is every day you're in debt in your life, every single day you're paying interest. Every single day. What velocity banking shines a huge light on is saying, hey, Mr. Mrs. Client, hey, Mr. Mrs. YouTube follower, subscriber, loyal to this channel and others. By the way, your average daily interest cost is $100 every single day. You're paying $100 every single day in interest. And with velocity banking, we could cut that in half. How does that sound? We can mathematically show it. It's not that hard. So is it going to work every single time? No, absolutely not. So as you're beginning to learn more and more about velocity banking, understand that it's not a one-size-fits-all. It doesn't work for every single situation, every single circumstance. But when it does, turn the switch on. Get in the room, find what you need, get the materials, leave the room once you're done. So I view velocity banking like a light switch in a room. Turn it on when I'm in the room. When I leave the room, what? Turn the switch, turn the lights off. Don't leave it running because it could cost you money. So have that awareness when doing velocity banking. Again, this is just showing like the first year. So at 4.24%, I move 5.99, 5.9, and then their primary mortgage is at a 7.38%. And we're only a little over a year into the home, right? They acquired the home back in November of 2023. Now it's April as I'm recording this video of 2025. So by the time this thing posts, maybe it's May or June. And so there's 7.38 versus 4.24. I showed making a $17,000 principal payment to the mortgage balance is what I illustrated for a total chunk of $42,043. Immediately what happens in that month, once I pay the cars off, I no longer have that payment. So where do those payments go? They go into the line of credit. So now those payments are going to help 100% principal help pay down the line of credit, which is now at 4.24%. And when you're doing velocity banking, you don't actually pay 4.24% in a whole year. What do I mean by that? If we owe $42,043, you times that by 4.24%. The total maximum amount of interest that I can pay in a year is $1,782.62. I can't pay more than that unless I owe more than 42 grand. Understand that. So what velocity banking is going to do is not only take that 4.24 percentage rate, and we're going to reduce the total interest percentage that we pay in a year doing velocity banking. And in many cases, we can cut that number in half, end up paying a total percentage interest of maybe 2 or 3%, as opposed to staying at 4.24. You're still getting charged 4.24% daily, right? The way they do it is 4.24 divided by 365. So you're getting charged daily 0.01% daily, and that compounds. So that doesn't change. The formula of how they charge interest doesn't change. What we're changing is how much we get charged based on what we owe. And so when you're fighting against time with velocity banking, you're only getting charged interest on what you owe on the day you owed it. That's it. So the goal is every single day, every single month, we're owing less than the previous month. So that means I pay less and less interest. What this shows is where the balance would be. I didn't even include interest costs because what I'll just do is just take this number. I'm just going to add it as like a buffer to leave room for error. So I basically say, okay, 42,043, add 1782.62 on it, do velocity banking. See how long it takes you. So I estimated that by say March, February, around that time frame of 2026, that this line of credit would have hit zero. And just keep in mind that when you're doing velocity banking, you don't have to wait till you pay off your first chunk before you make your next. Ideally, your first indication when you want to make your next chunk, there's a few factors to keep in mind, right? Just depends. But generally speaking, when your balance owed is equal to your monthly income, that's a first indication that you're getting close to evaluating when you should make your next chunk. So that would have occurred somewhere around September, October of 2025 to make that next chunk towards something. In this case, what I'm going to be showing, and I'm going to break this video up into sections, into a little series, so that it's a little bit easier to capture all this information, everything that's happening. On one end in this video, I'm spending a lot of time focusing on the velocity banking strategy, our debt tool, money in, money out, what we did initially. We're going to pay off 2 debts and send $17,000 to the principal balance of their mortgage. That is at 7.38%. So that's interest savings no matter which way you look at it. And then I'm simply showing how we're going to pay this off by February, March of 2026. Let's say you just did that. You just paid it off. While that's happening, we're going to put that to the side. We're going to take a look at the right-hand side of the board here. These are some statements, some factors that we're going to use to improve some of the dollars that are over here, that we can improve the performance of it long term. So what I am showing what this client could do is using a properly structured whole life insurance contract with a privately mutually held company that has paid dividends for 100+ years, that has strong guarantees, strong performance, strong actual historical performance. And I'm going to show how they can preserve, save $20,000 a year tax-free. So that's the number I came up with. Then I'm showing Roth IRA, not just any Roth IRA. I'm going to encourage a self-direct option because of what they want to do long term. They want to buy a laundromat, they want to buy real estate. So I like the idea of staying in control of my money, short term and long term. You can do that with a self-directed Roth IRA. Since they're 50 years old, they can make make-up contributions, an extra $1,000, so for a total of $8,000. And then I'm showing how they can use a health savings account and make contributions of $4,300. So I'm showing $4,300, $8,000, and $20K, and this breaks down where I'm pulling that money from. So for the $20,000, in the next video, I'm going to show the policy design and everything. So I'm going to show saving, using savings that we already have 80 grand, and I'm going to show slowly moving that money over into a whole life insurance contract for the first 4 years while simultaneously paying off debt simultaneously. So we're going to take 80K, split it up over 4 years. That means I don't have to bother my current monthly cash flow to fund that asset. I'm going to take that 80 grand, put it in a whole life. I'm going to get additional benefits that a high yield savings does not provide, and I'm going to get better long-term performance inside of that whole life insurance contract, and that money's going to grow on a guaranteed basis plus dividends, and that money's going to grow tax deferred and can be used tax free. There's a lot of ands with that particular asset. So very excited for her on that part. Then I'm going to show taking $12,300 from stock, taking it out of risk because it doesn't align with their investor DNA. It doesn't align with their goals, what they actually want to do with their money. So I'm going to show how they can get their money to line up with their values and beliefs, not their values and beliefs line up with their money, because that's the wrong way to go. You want your money to line up with your values and beliefs so that your money doesn't influence your values and beliefs. Your values and beliefs influences your money. That's key. So I'm going to show in the first year only, taking 12.3 from there to max fund a Roth IRA and an HSA. The beauty of doing that is that money's now going to grow tax-free. So we're removing tax liability in the future by having these accounts that she otherwise would not have had. Then I'm going to show, starting in March 2026, taking 3 months. So after I pay off the first chunk of the HELOC, I'm going to take a break with the Velocity Banking, and we're going to look at their cash flow. And we're going to see that their cash flow is almost 4K because we went from 29 and then add 978 to that. So you're almost at 4,000. We're just going to take 3 months out of the year until year 4, and we're just simply going to max fund the Roth IRA and the HSA. So this is me just showing where money is being directed to and how it's going to be able to grow more efficiently to solve for purchasing real estate, purchasing a laundromat, acquiring a dental practice. Then with Velocity Banking on the primary, we're going to be doing Velocity Banking on their mortgage because outside of that, they have no other debt, no credit card debt, no student loans, no nothing, just their mortgage. Now, there's going to be some variables that kick in to this strategy that may throw us off, but we're going to be prepared for that, which is the husband will acquire some student loans in the near future, and they have a daughter that's going into college that they're funding through a college savings plan. As part of their expenses, we have college savings being funded. So if there's anything short that might, throw us off, say a little bit, but we're still gonna have cash flow to support that particular time frame. So even if I show us getting out of debt at a certain time frame, I'm gonna add an additional buffer just to accommodate and account for new debt that will enter in the future. We just don't know what that number is yet. So in the meantime, we'll do Velocity Banking on the primary for about 4 years or less, and it'll just be purely dependent on what their cost of money is in their HELOC. At some point in the next 4 years, we may also look at a first lien HELOC because if interest rates go down, then prime is currently at 7.5%. They have a mortgage rate of 7.38%. If interest rates go down to like 7, 6.5 in the next year or 2 years, even if it drops a point, we could look into refinancing their first lien mortgage into a first lien HELOC at a lower interest rate, possibly even get a fixed rate for about 3 to 5 years and just pay the house off in that time frame faster than making extra payments. Why? Because we change the amount of interest that they end up paying. And if I can get them from a higher rate to a lower rate, no one can argue that person's going to get out of debt faster. Nothing to argue there. So I'm very excited about that potential, but I'm not betting on it. So if that never happens, that's okay. What did I say earlier in the video? I treat Velocity Banking like a switch. So the moment it stops making sense, meaning the cost of money daily in your line of credit is higher than your cost of money daily on your mortgage, then we stop and just make extra payments because you want to secure the wins and victories that you got with Velocity Banking. Secure the win, stop, now just do extra payments because you're so far ahead of the person that was just making extra payments. You used both in the right timing and the right order, which is amazing for you, which now is going to cut down the amount of money we're going to need for retirement. So by this person living a debt-free life, they're relinquishing additional expense obligations in their finances, which means on the retirement side, I now need less money to live on. So that's less pressure on how my investments need to perform. Many of us think we need to earn 50%, 100%, and this is why we get caught up in scams, schemes, deceptions, manipulations, gurus, and influencers telling us to do things with our money that they themselves don't do, number one. Or two, they do it because they have all this other passive income from being a guru and influencer and charging tens of thousands of dollars to fund that asset. So it's very easy for them to say, yeah, sure, versus when your main source of income is your career and then you're betting on this performance because you think you don't have a lot of time and you think you have to take on massive risk, it's totally out of alignment according to your investor DNA, how you operate, how you make decisions. So you mean to tell me you're making a financial decision because of some guru like me told you to do it, without you doing proper due diligence, without you asking yourself, or at least praying, whatever your faith is, without at least saying, wait a second, do I actually want to have a 300-unit apartment building? Do I actually want to invest with the government and be a government contractor and do that? Do I actually want to have an online store and invest money in Shopify and e-commerce and do all that in Etsy? Do I actually want to become a content creator influencer? Like, have you actually asked yourself, what do I want with my life? What are my values and beliefs? And then how do we get investment opportunities to line up with that? I think that's a much better solution. So the fact that we know what we want here in this example, we want to do real estate investing, we want a laundromat, we want a dental practice. So that means Bitcoin's not in the discussion here. That means online stores, not in the discussion here. Not yet, maybe over time. That means joining an MLM, not in the discussion here. That means investing your money with some group, some private group over here, and they're gonna invest in notes and pay you 20% per month for the rest of your life. That's not what's going on here. So you're able to like literally cancel out so many opportunities. You're able to say no confidently and not get influenced because someone throws 500% returns your way. Somebody throws 100% return your way. You're like, okay, that's just not alignment with my values and beliefs. That's just not in alignment with where I'm going. So this on the right-hand side of the board is just gonna show first where we can deposit, park, deploy dollars, grow it tax-free, not take risk without having to take massive risk. We're gonna see how that money compounds over time by reducing taxes and fees and risk altogether. And then I'm gonna show how much capital we have to work with when we get to around that time frame of 65 to 67. I'm also gonna show a estimated time frame when we'll be debt free in the next video, in the part 2 of this video, and just show you all the components of what's happening here. So for those of you that would like to run your numbers just like this, do a one-to-one session with me, receive financial coaching, support, accountability, get the training that you need, get the education, the literacy that you need. I do this one-to-one. I've been doing this for 7 years now with a lot of different families. I've been able to witness people retire debt-free, have guaranteed and passive income to take care of all their lifestyle expenses, and then operate out of abundance with their activity income in the thing that they transition to while still investing money, while still saving money, and having their legacy set up. Like, it's amazing to watch. So if you've gotten to the point where you've been watching the material on this channel and maybe other similar channels, and you're trying to decide who I want to work with, you can book an initial consultation with me, 1 hour, on my website, and click the link below and you'll see the different options. Or if you're like, you know what, I'm all in. I've been watching this guy for 4 years. I'm not fooling around anymore. I started watching him since COVID. I wasn't ready. I got better. Life got better. My finances, I'm making more income now. I've been able to knock off these debts. Maybe you're that person. Make a prayer. You lead with faith, or maybe you don't. And it's a logical decision. You're like, I've been following this guy for 4 years. He's helped me pay off He's given me these tips. He's helped put so much money in my pocket. Let's make a partnership. Let's take it to the next level. Let's get your numbers on the whiteboard here. Let's calculate this. Let's document it. Let's hold you accountable. Let's have some fun. Again, my name is Denzel Rodriguez, personal finance geek of the 21st century. Have a wonderful day. God bless. Talk to you soon.